Battle Through the Heavens, Chapter 240. A direct assault on the Sand Mercenary headquarters. The copper tang of blood lingers on the stone, yet the weight coiled in Xiaoyan's limbs settles into a deceptive, heavy stillness. He exhales the residual heat of the clash, his steady fingers masking the strain as they lift a teacup while the hall is cleared of its wreckage. This silence is thin, a brief indrawing of breath, before the desert sand demands a final, sharper strike.
Inside the hall, Zhao Yan sat with several people. The others from the Mahdi Mercenary Company were busy cleaning up the mess at the headquarters. Some of the mercenaries in the living room looked with awe at the youth drinking tea, his expression warm and smiling. Because Zhao Yan had acted with such ruthlessness earlier, they felt a bit of fear in their hearts. However, after a brief interaction, their fear dissipated. These were people who lived on the edge of a blade. Their nerves were naturally stronger than ordinary people. Furthermore, as members of the Mahdi Mercenary Company, no one dared to show fear toward him. If Zhao Yan had not arrived in time today, there was a very high chance they would all have been killed by Moran. Holding the warm teacup, Zhao Yan watched the busy mercenaries. Hai Bodong remained seated, his face indifferent. This elder did not show a kind smile just because Zhao Ding and Zhao Li were Zhao Yan's brothers.
Old Mr. Hai is a friend of mine. His temper is a bit... but he is a true expert.
Seeing Hai Bodong follow them inside and remain silent, Xiao Yan shook his head helplessly and smiled at Xiao Ding and Xiao Li. Xiao Ding smiled and nodded, his gaze sweeping over Hai Bodong. With his experience, he knew this indifferent old man was certainly a powerful expert.
Indeed. An expert naturally has the temperament of an expert. Otherwise, how would they show their personality?
Xiao Ding chuckled and joked. Xiao Yan laughed. He first asked about Xiao Li's injuries, then frowned slightly and asked,
Tell me, what exactly happened? Why does the Sand Mercenary Company suddenly have so many experts? And what happened to the girl, Xinglin?
Hearing Xiao Yan's questions, the smile on Xiao Ding's face slowly faded. He let out a bitter sigh and paused for a moment, as if organizing his words. After a long while, he slowly said,
Half a month ago, Qinglin went out once and never returned. After an investigation, she was likely kidnapped. At the place where she was taken, I found traces of a fierce battle. There was quite a lot of snake blood there, which likely belonged to her pet, the dual-headed fire spirit serpent.
To be able to defeat the dual-headed fire spirit serpent and kidnap Qinglin, the opponent must be at least a Douling expert.
Xiao Yan's finger tapped gently on the table. His brows furrowed as he said,
Who would act against Qinglin? She is just a young girl. Why would a Douling expert take action against her?
We are not very clear on this ourselves.
Xiao Ding said with a bitter laugh, shaking his head.
It was also one day after Qinglin went missing that the Sand Mercenary Company began swallowing up the other mercenary companies in the city. Except for our company and a few other factions, almost everyone was unable to resist. Thus, in these last 5 days, those small factions have either been absorbed or eliminated. Later on, the slightly stronger factions, like ours, regained our senses and formed an alliance to resist the Sand Mercenary Company. According to our plan, even if the Sand Mercenary Company had a Dou Qi, they could not swallow us. However, a few days later, another Dou Qi appeared in the Sand Mercenary Company, along with many Dou Qi. When the enemy's strength surged, our side began to panic. After all, it was a temporary alliance with no real binding power. Just a few days later, one company was destroyed, another surrendered, and another paid a large compensation to withdraw from the city. Because our motley mercenary company is a tough bone to crack, they left us for last. That is why today's event occurred. If you had arrived a bit later, I fear we would have been annihilated by the Sand Mercenary Company.
Xiao Ding sighed.
Do you know the background of those who joined the Sand Mercenary Company?
Xiaoyan gently rubbed the warm teacup and asked softly.
It is not clear.
Xiao Ding shook his head. He hesitated for a moment before saying,
I suspect Qinglin's disappearance is related to the arrival of these experts. After all, the timing is too coincidental.
Very few people should know that Qinglin possesses the fire spirit serpent. Why would they choose to strike her?
Xiaoyan frowned, tapping the table lightly. He muttered in his heart.
Could it be because of the triple jade green snake flower pupils?
In the end, we still do not know what happened.
Xiao Ding and Xiao Li glanced at each other and laughed bitterly.
If you do not know, it does not mean that guy does not know.
Xiaoyan sat up straight and smiled.
I will go find him and see exactly how much courage he has.
Should we gather our men? They have many people, after all.
Xiao Ding suggested.
As you wish, brother.
Xiaoyan did not mind. As he reached the door, he passed by Haibo Dong and smiled, asking,
Does old Hay want to come along?
There is nothing to do here anyway. I will follow you to watch the excitement. However, I will not take action. My protection fee is very expensive.
Haibu Dong said with a faint smile. Nodding with a smile, Xiaoyan stepped out of the hall. Haibu Dong followed lazily behind him, followed by Xiao Ding and Xiao Li. They quickly gathered over 50 capable men, and the group aggressively marched out of the headquarters. Their faces were full of killing intent as they headed toward the territory of the Sand Mercenary Company. On the street, seeing the group of mercenaries with fierce expressions, the surrounding pedestrians quickly made way, their voices whispering.
Aren't those the subordinates of the Modi Mercenary Company? How do they still dare to come out at this time? Aren't they afraid of the Sand Mercenary Company?
I just heard someone from the Sand Mercenary Company say their operation failed. Their dad Dou Qi died at the hands of someone from the Moti Mercenary Company. They are probably looking for revenge now.
What? The Dou Qi of the Sand Mercenary Company is dead? When did the Moti Mercenary Company get such an expert?
It is that black-clothed youth leading the way. Shocked? That Dou Qi expert was killed by him in front of many people.
A passerby, who seemed to know some news, looked at the mercenaries with awe, specifically at the slender youth in the lead.
Nonsense. How is that possible? That youth looks like he is not even 20 years old. How could he kill a Dou Qi?
The pedestrian had an expression of disbelief.
Just wait and see. This time, the Sand Mercenary Company will have to pull their heads back into their shells. Who told them to be so arrogant a few days ago?
Continue the same scene, said gleefully. Under the attentive gazes of the city, Xiaoyan and the group crossed several intersections. 10 minutes later, the heavily guarded headquarters of the Sand Mercenary Company appeared in everyone's sight. At this time, the Sand Mercenary Company had clearly received news of Mo Ran being killed. Many people were patrolling the main gate with weapons, their expressions solemn. When they discovered the people from the Moti Mercenary Company, everyone's faces immediately turned frantic. Several mercenaries ran into the main gate to report. Indifferently looking at the mercenaries of the Sand Mercenary Company who were holding weapons with trembling bodies, Xiao Yan and his group slowly came to a halt.
This is the territory of the Sand Mercenary Company. What are you doing here?
Seeing the group approaching like tigers and leopards, a mercenary with a pale face shouted.
Tell Luo Bu to crawl out here for me.
Xiao Yan flicked his finger, looked up, and said with a smile. Looking at the black-clad youth, all the mercenaries remained silent. They had already heard from the people of the Mote Mercenary Company that the Dou Qi expert had died a miserable death at the hands of this youth who was now smiling so warmly.
Forget it. I will just go in and find him myself.
Seeing the silent mercenaries, Xiao Yan gave a helpless smile and took a step forward. Clatter! Seeing Xiao Yan take a step, the mercenaries snapped to attention, their feet involuntarily backing away in a comical manner.
The captain has ordered, kill them regardless of the cost. Anyone who kills that man in black will receive a reward of 50,000 gold coins.
Amidst the silence, a loud shout came from inside the gate. As the shout fell, the eyes of the mercenaries at the door immediately lit up. Looking at Xiao Yan, their fear diminished slightly, replaced by greed. Clearly sensing the change in these people, Xiao Yan shook his head gently. Without wasting words, he stepped forward.
Kill him!
When the reward was announced, one mercenary finally could not resist the temptation. He gripped his weapon tightly and charged at Xiao Yan with a distorted, murderous expression. His action undoubtedly triggered a chain reaction. The mercenaries behind him also showed fierce glints in their eyes as they rushed toward Xiao Yan. Seeing dozens of mercenaries attacking, Xiao Yan slowly exhaled. His palms rotated as he shouted,
Flame thrust!
As Xiao Yan's palms struck out, a fierce force sucked up a massive rock and threw it straight into the charging mercenaries. The wind from the force slammed the 1,000-pound rock into the mercenaries. Dozens of them turned pale instantly, and mouthfuls of fresh blood were spat out, creating a rain of blood. Clapping his hands lightly, Xiao Yan glanced at the now empty gateway. He turned to look at the stunned group and smiled.
Let us go in.
After speaking, he led the way inside, his manner leisurely, as if he were entering his own home. Looking at the youth's back, everyone looked at each other, speechless. One palm strike had injured dozens of mercenaries. This person was simply too abnormal.
What a freak.
Xiao Li sighed and glanced at Xiao Ding. The two of them shook their heads helplessly and followed. The Sand Mercenary Company was indeed the strongest faction in Rock Desert City. As soon as they entered the courtyard, over 100 mercenaries with weapons rushed out. Although these mercenaries lacked the discipline of the Moti Company, their numbers were quite imposing. Seeing the mercenaries jumping out to block them, Xiao Yan's footsteps did not stop. His palm struck out, releasing an overwhelming and domineering force. When this force hit, everyone with a strength below 5-star doge spat blood and retreated. Those with higher strength managed to resist the force, but before they could rejoice, a ghostly figure appeared before them. A fist struck them directly, and each time the figure flashed, someone fell unconscious. Along the way, seeing the members of the Sand Mercenary Company constantly rolling and falling to both sides, Xiao Yan finally experienced the power of a mysterious Class Qi method. Previously, he could only use flame thrust 5 times before his Dou Qi was exhausted. Now, he could use the mysterious class method as he pleased. This was truly a world of difference. Charging through like this, Xiao Yan seemed to grow fond of it. His body turned into a black shadow, weaving through the mercenaries. Wherever his shadow passed, blood and bodies flew everywhere. Walking behind Xiao Yan, Xiao Ding and the others were silent. They only watched the mercenaries being constantly sent flying and vomiting blood. Since entering, they had not had a chance to act.
Looking at the black-clad youth ahead, who seemed to have endless energy without weakening, everyone felt quite excited. Stepping nimbly past the fainting mercenaries and looking at the surrounding mess, everyone sighed. Could this person destroy the Sand Mercenary Company alone? Inside the hall, dozens of people were restless. Hearing the screams from outside, their faces showed terror. A sense of panic enveloped the hall. At the head of the hall sat a man with a pale face. He held a teacup in his hand, but it was trembling. He looked toward the hall entrance, then turned to several people nearby. These people wore the attire of the Sand Mercenary Company, with commander badges on their chests.
Everyone, I told you long ago that the brothers Zhao Ding and Zhao Li had a terrifyingly strong younger brother. You were stubborn and insisted on destroying them. Now that guy has returned. How are we supposed to stop him?
The man's voice was filled with anger and shrillness.
Captain Luo Bu, there is no need to be overly worried. That person's strength is indeed formidable, but looking at his fight with Elder Moran, he is certainly not a Dou Wang. Although he killed Moran, he must have been injured. Therefore, by my judgment, his strength is at most that of a 2- or 3-star Da Dou Qi. However, the captain is a 4-star Da Dou Qi. Why should you fear him? Moreover, as long as you can hold out for a while, the great elder of our clan will arrive. With his Dou Ling strength, why would he fear a green-headed brat?
A sturdy man laughed.
I do not know if he was hiding his strength during the fight with Moran. However, when he previously entered my room in a ghostly manner, I dare say that even a Dou Ling could not compare to that kind of speed.
Luo Boyu said with a grim face.
Did the captain exchange blows with him then?
The man asked with a smile.
I did not.
Haha, that is it then. Perhaps his speed is indeed fast, but in a battle between experts, speed is not everything. It is possible that guy is just a bit faster than others.
Hearing this, Luo Bu's face showed hesitation. His heart calmed down slightly, and he nodded. Earlier he had been flustered because Xiaoyan had entered his room so mysteriously. Now that he thought about it, how could a boy not even 20 years old be a Dou Wang? Even if he ate natural treasures and high-grade medicinal pills every day, it was absolutely impossible. Thinking this, his grim expression dissipated. He clenched his fists, exhaled, and said fiercely,
Very well. This time I will see exactly what skills this person has. I do not believe he can single-handedly eliminate over 10 Dou Qi here.
Seeing his lost morale returning, everyone in the hall breathed a sigh of relief. If even the captain had no will to fight, they would truly be finished. Just as everyone was bracing themselves, the tightly closed main doors suddenly exploded with a boom! Countless shards flew in all directions. At the entrance, as the wood dust settled, a person in black clothing slowly appeared before everyone.
Everyone, it is not very polite to hide here, is it?
A faint, teasing voice reached everyone's ears.